Don't you ever compare yourself to me, okay? You got everything, and I got shit. Puns, all right? School would probably shut down if you didn't show up.
They were five strangers with nothing in common. A jock, a brain, a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. Locked in a high school library on a Saturday morning, they were meant to be forgettable. Just another teen movie. But The Breakfast Club became something else entirely. A generational confession, a mirror held up to suburban angst, and a time capsule that refused to fade. But behind the plaid shirts, smoky eyeshadow, and that iconic fist pump was a set riddled with tension, improvisation, and near implosions. What really happened when John Hughes gathered five teens and told them to speak the truth? What lines were crossed? And who barely survived the experience? Let's dig into 20 secrets they never told you about The Breakfast Club. Secret number 1. The first draft was a crime thriller. Before it became the teen confession booth we know today, The Breakfast Club started as something much darker. John Hughes's original draft wasn't a quiet character study. It was a high-stakes high school thriller. In early outlines, the detention wasn't just a space for reflection. It involved a stolen exam, a heist-like subplot, and even a hallway chase scene involving security guards. Hughes had envisioned a satirical take on juvenile crime and school discipline, with students teaming up to outwit corrupt faculty. But as he refined the script, he realized the true drama wasn't in what they did, but in who they were. The thriller idea was scrapped, replaced by intimate dialogue and raw emotion. The only thing stolen in the final version? The audience's assumptions about what a teen movie could be. Secret number 2. Judd Nelson was nearly fired. By the lead actress. Judd Nelson didn't play John Bender. He became him. And that wasn't always a good thing. His method acting bled off screen, especially toward Molly Ringwald. Nelson would stay in character between takes, taunting Ringwald with the same snide remarks Bender used in the film. Eventually, she'd had enough, and went straight to director John Hughes. Hughes agreed. He was ready to fire Nelson for abusive behavior, convinced his presence was toxic to the rest of the cast. But Paul Gleason, who played the gruff principal, stepped in and defended Nelson. He argued the film needed that tension. Nelson stayed, barely. The moment revealed just how thin the line was between performance and real pain, and how Hughes's vision teetered on collapse before it even finished filming.
Don't you ever compare yourself to me, okay? You got everything, and I got shit. Fucking Rapunzel, right? School would probably fucking shut down if you didn't show up. Queenie isn't here.
The movie went on to become a classic. But behind the scenes, tensions from that moment lingered, marking a quiet fracture in the Brat Pack's golden image. Secret number 3. The library was totally fake. The sprawling, sun-drenched library where the film unfolds is one of the most iconic sets in 80s cinema. But it never existed. No such space was found in any real school. So the production team built one from scratch inside a vacant gymnasium at Maine North High School in Des Plaines, Illinois. The gym was gutted, soundproofed, and reconstructed as a 2-story set with fake books, movable walls, and ceilings wired for dramatic lighting. It wasn't just clever, it was necessary. The fake library allowed for complete control of mood, space, and silence. Hughes needed a world that looked real, but functioned like a stage. And the illusion worked so well, generations of fans still try to find that library today. But it was never there.
What's your problem?
To this day, visitors show up at the old school searching for a library that only ever lived on film. The set was torn down after filming, its realism preserved only in memory. Secret number 4. Molly Ringwald wasn't supposed to be Claire. When Hughes began casting, Molly Ringwald wanted to play Allison, the basket case. She connected with Allison's outsider persona, her discomfort, her black eyeliner armor. But Hughes had other plans. He saw Claire in her, the privileged, popular girl with something to hide. Ringwald resisted. She didn't want to be the cliché, the girl with perfect hair and no real problems. But Hughes was insistent. He believed only Ringwald could bring enough depth to make Claire human. Reluctantly, she agreed. And he was right. Her vulnerability in the lunch scene, the hesitation in her final kiss with Bender, it gave the princess dimension. Still, Ringwald would later say she never fully shook the feeling that she was meant to wear black, not pink.
Time.
Excuse me, sir. I think there's been a mistake. I know it's detention, but, I don't think I belong in here.
Ringwald's performance redefined the archetype, but her heart remained with the role she never got. Decades later, she still wonders what might have been if she'd played the girl in the corner instead. Secret number 5. John Hughes. Wrote it in just 2 days. In a burst of caffeine-fueled clarity, John Hughes locked himself away and wrote the entire script for The Breakfast Club in just 2 days. It wasn't clean or polished, but it was emotionally raw, like ripping pages from a teenager's private journal. Hughes had spent years listening to the way teens actually talk, cutting through Hollywood's sugar-coated version of adolescence. What poured out in those 48 hours wasn't a screenplay. It was a pressure release valve for every misunderstood kid in America. Some scenes, like Bender's locker story and Allison's whisper about being ignored, were barely touched from the original draft. It was lightning in a bottle. And Hughes knew it. He told the studio this would be the film he wanted on his gravestone. And it might be. Hughes wrote it fast, but it struck deep. For him, this was the one that mattered most. Secret number 6. There was no real script on set. Despite Hughes's infamous 2-day draft, The Breakfast Club was never a rigid production. On set, the script was treated more like a suggestion than gospel. Entire scenes were reshaped in real time as the actors pushed back, improvised, and rewrote their own truths. Judd Nelson added monologues. Ali Sheedy invented quirks. Even the infamous scene where the group sits in a circle and confesses their fears. It was only loosely outlined. Hughes encouraged the cast to speak from experience, knowing that real emotion couldn't be manufactured. What ended up on screen was raw, uneven, and electric, exactly what teenage life feels like. The lack of a locked script didn't weaken the film. It gave it soul.
Let's end this right now. You don't talk to her. You don't look at her. And you don't even think about her. You understand me?
Much of the dialogue wasn't written. It was lived. That chaos made it real. Secret number 7. Emilio Estevez's role was meant for someone else. When John Hughes first dreamed up The Breakfast Club, Emilio Estevez wasn't supposed to play Andrew, the wrestling jock. In fact, Hughes originally cast him as Bender, the volatile rebel. But as auditions progressed, Hughes struggled to find anyone who could embody Andrew convincingly. Someone with the physicality and quiet self-loathing the role demanded. At the last minute, he asked Estevez to switch roles. It was a huge gamble. Could Estevez pull off the silent pressure of masculinity without becoming a stereotype? The answer was yes. His vulnerability in the group confession, crying as he reveals the cruelty he inflicted on another boy, became one of the film's most haunting moments. Losing Bender meant gaining Andrew's broken humanity.
Let's end this right now. You don't talk to her. You don't look at her. And you don't even think about her. You understand me?
Estevez lost the rebel role, but found something deeper. His Andrew became the film's quiet heart. Secret number 8, the famous dance scene, was a last-minute fix. That iconic scene, feet stomping, fists pumping, teens dancing like no one's watching, almost didn't happen. Originally, Hughes wanted a montage of each character dancing alone in different parts of the school. But during filming, it felt disjointed, almost awkward. So Hughes changed course. He pulled the cast together, played We Are Not Alone by Carla DeVito, and told them to move however they wanted. No choreography, no rehearsals, just release. The result was a moment of pure joy in an otherwise claustrophobic film. For one brief sequence, the characters stopped performing who they were supposed to be and simply existed. It wasn't a dance number, it was liberation. It wasn't scripted, it just happened, and that's why it still feels so free. Secret number 9, the cast fought constantly off-camera. The chemistry on screen was electric, but behind the scenes, the cast often clashed. Molly Ringwald and Judd Nelson's tension wasn't just acting. Their real-life friction bordered on hostile. Anthony Michael Hall was navigating puberty, ego, and isolation. Ali Sheedy barely spoke between takes. And Emilio Estevez tried to stay neutral while the others built factions. Hughes called it method adolescence, a strange mirror of the plot itself. The cast didn't like each other, didn't trust each other, and didn't know how to hide it. Ironically, that chaos gave the film its teeth. You don't fake that kind of emotional discomfort. You film it.
I don't understand what? You think I don't understand pressure, Claire? You.
They weren't friends, but that friction made the characters feel real. Secret number 10, Bender's closet scene, was completely improvised. When Bender gets locked in the supply closet and mimics Principal Vernon's voice, it feels too authentic to be scripted. That's because it wasn't. Judd Nelson improvised the entire sequence, mimicking Paul Gleason with eerie precision. The camera kept rolling, capturing a string of lines that weren't in any draft of the script. Nelson even banged on the closet door with real frustration, nearly breaking his hand in the process. The moment added unexpected humor and rage, turning a simple punishment into a portrait of rebellion cracking into madness. It was Bender at his most dangerous and his most wounded. And none of it was planned.
That's the last time, Bender. That's the last time you ever make me look bad in front of those kids. Do you hear me? I make $31,000 a year, and I've got a home, and I'm not about to throw it away on some punk like you. But someday, when you're out of here, you forgot all about this place, and they've forgotten all about you, and you're wrapped up in your own pathetic life.
Nelson made it up on the spot. The pain and the brilliance were real. Secret number 11, Ringwald and Hall, dated in secret. During filming, behind all the tension, one quiet romance was blooming. Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall, Claire and Brian, began secretly dating during production. They were young, uncertain, and under intense scrutiny, so they kept it quiet. The chemistry between their characters may not have been romantic on screen, but off-camera it was something different. Hall was smitten, Ringwald was guarded. The relationship was short-lived, ending not long after filming wrapped. But for a brief moment, two of John Hughes's teen muses were more than just co-stars. Their secret added another layer to the film's emotional core, a quiet connection buried beneath all the shouting, tears, and rebellion.
You're so conceited, Claire. You're so conceited. You're like full of yourself. Why are you like that? I'm not saying that to be conceited.
Their characters never kissed, but off camera, a fleeting romance shaped their bond. Secret number 12. The studio wanted a pop soundtrack. Hughes said no Universal Pictures wanted hits. They pushed for a chart-topping soundtrack filled with pop anthems and MTV-ready singles. But John Hughes wasn't interested in musical trends. He was obsessed with emotion. He fought for a minimalist score, anchored by the haunting synths of Gary Chang and the now iconic Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds. The song wasn't even written by the band. It was offered to Billy Idol first, who turned it down. Simple Minds reluctantly agreed. Hughes placed it over the final shot, unsure how audiences would react. What he got was one of the most recognizable end credits in movie history. A single defiant fist, and a song that would outlive them all. Idol passed. Simple Minds hesitated. But that song became immortal. Secret number 13. The detention scene took 13 hours to shoot. The emotional centerpiece of the film, The Circle of Confessions, looks effortless, but it took nearly 13 hours to get right. Shot in a single day, the actors had to sustain raw emotion across dozens of takes, angles, and resets. No one broke character. Ali Sheedy's whisper, Emilio Estevez's tears, and Anthony Michael Hall's breakdown were all captured in real time with almost no rehearsal. By the end of the day, the cast was physically and emotionally wrecked. Hughes refused to yell "cut" during takes, often letting the camera run long just to capture silence and breathing. That relentless approach made the scene feel almost documentary-like. You weren't watching characters. You were watching kids crack open.
Your friends wouldn't mind because they look up to us.
You're so conceited, Glenn. You're so conceited. You're so, full of yourself. Why are you like that?
I'm not saying that to be conceited. I hate it. I hate having to go along with everything.
It took 13 brutal hours, but what they captured was lightning, unfiltered and real. Secret number 14. The crew thought the movie would flop. During production, there was no buzz, no studio confidence. Crew members whispered that the movie was just a bunch of talking in a library. Even the lighting team joked about how boring the dailies looked. Where were the action scenes? The romance? The spectacle? But Hughes knew something they didn't. He believed in dialogue, in stares that lasted too long, in pain that didn't need music to swell beneath it. The crew laughed behind his back. Then the movie opened, and never left. The Breakfast Club proved that tension doesn't need plot. It needs truth. And in that quiet library, 5 voices echoed louder than explosions ever could.
Scumbag.
What do you say we close that door? We can't have any kind of party with Vernon checking us out every few seconds.
You know the doors are supposed to stay open.
So what?
So why don't you just shut up? There's 4 other people in here, you know.
God, you can count. See, I knew you had to be smart to be a wrestler.
Who the hell are you to judge anybody anyway?
Really?
They mocked it as just talking. Then it redefined what teen films could be. Secret number 15. A deleted scene changed the ending completely. There was an alternate ending, one that shifted the emotional gravity of the entire film. In the original cut, Claire walks out to find her popular friends waiting for her. She hesitates, but gets in the car without saying goodbye. Bender watches from the window. No kiss, no earring, just silence. It was meant to show that nothing changes, that Saturday was a fluke, a fragile ceasefire that wouldn't survive Monday. But test audiences hated it. They wanted hope. So Hughes rewrote the final scenes, adding the kiss, the earring, and Brian's letter. It softened the tragedy. but also made the message more ambiguous. Will they speak again on Monday? The film doesn't answer. It just leaves the question hanging, like Bender's fist in the sky. The sad ending was cut, but the question stayed. Was any of it real come Monday? Secret number 16. The film was nearly rated. The Breakfast Club may be a staple of high school film curriculums today, but it came dangerously close to being slapped with an R rating. The MPAA took issue with the film's profanity, sexual references, and emotional intensity, particularly Bender's graphic locker room monologue and the raunchy jokes exchanged between characters. John Hughes fought hard to avoid the restrictive rating, knowing it would prevent his target audience, actual teenagers, from seeing it. After a few strategic edits and a long negotiation, the film narrowly secured a PG-13. Ironically, it was one of the first movies ever to be released under the newly created PG-13 label. A film about adolescence almost deemed too adult for adolescents.
I do that. I'll do anything sexual. I don't need $1 million to do it either. You're lying. I already have. I've done just about everything there is except a few things that are illegal. I'm a nymphomaniac.
The irony was brutal and fitting. It nearly got an R. Instead, it helped define what PG-13 even meant. Secret number 17. That iconic fist pump, stolen from Springsteen. The final shot, the slow-motion fist pump, Simple Minds blaring, jacket blowing in the wind, was never in the original script. In fact, it was inspired by Bruce Springsteen. Judd Nelson had seen the boss end his concerts with a victorious fist raised high, a symbol of defiance and pride. On set, Nelson mimicked the gesture as a joke after filming his last scene. But John Hughes saw something powerful in it. He grabbed the camera, told Nelson to do it again, and turned it into the final frame. No dialogue, no resolution. Just a single, unforgettable image. One improvised moment that became the emotional exclamation point of a generation.
The Breakfast Club.
Don't you.
What started as a joke ended as the film's most iconic image. Secret number 18. Paul Gleason stayed in character. All day, Paul Gleason didn't just play Principal Vernon, he became him. And he didn't drop the act between takes. Cast members later revealed that Gleason stayed in character from call time to wrap, lecturing the crew, barking orders, and even handing out mock detentions. It was part method, part intimidation tactic. Hughes encouraged it, believing it would heighten the tension between Gleason and the teen actors. It worked. The resentment on screen was real. Judd Nelson despised Gleason during filming. Anthony Michael Hall avoided him entirely. But Gleason never flinched. He wore that whistle like a badge of honor and left behind one of the most despised and unforgettable authority figures in movie history. Gleason never broke character, and that discipline made Vernon unforgettable. Secret number 19. The sequel John Hughes refused to write. After the film's success, Universal begged John Hughes for a sequel. What happened to the 5 students on Monday? Would they stay friends? Would they even speak? Hughes refused. He believed the beauty of The Breakfast Club was in its ambiguity. "You don't need to know what happens next," he once said, "because that's the point. Neither do they." Still, in the early 2000s, Rumors swirled of a script in progress, with the original cast possibly returning. Nothing materialized. Hughes passed away in 2009, and the door closed permanently. The sequel that could have ruined everything remained unwritten. And maybe that's why the original still holds power. It's a single day, sealed in amber, never to be reopened.
See you, Brad. See you next Saturday.
You bet.
Hughes never wrote the sequel. That silence became its legacy. Secret number 20. The final voiceover almost didn't happen. Brian's letter, the one that plays over the closing montage, wasn't in the original cut. Initially, Hughes ended the film in silence, letting the actors' final glances speak for themselves. But test audiences were confused. Some felt the characters' arcs weren't fully resolved. So Hughes wrote the voiceover last minute, giving Brian the final word. It reframed the film not as 5 individual journeys, but as a collective statement, a challenge to the adults who failed to see their kids clearly. You see us as you want to see us. That letter became a manifesto for every misfit who's ever felt invisible. And the final twist?